Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. The seed is the word of God, Christ is the sower. All who come to him will live forever. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. One day Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. Such great crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat there, while the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, "Listen, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell on the path, and the birds came and ate them. Other seeds fell on the rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and they sprang up quickly, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Let anyone with ears listen." The Gospel of the Lord. Sometimes when I prepare children for First Holy Communion, you go over, okay, well, this is not regular bread, it's Jesus. You explain to them a little bit. You don't use the word transubstantiation, but, we explain a little bit how it happens and stuff like that. And usually their question has nothing to do with the theology. It has more to do with, like, one of their first questions is, well, what does it taste like, right? That's what they want to know. What does it taste like? And usually I explain to them, well, it kind of tastes like an ice cream cone, just the cone part, but like less sweet and stuff like that. So, and then that gets them a little bit more comfortable with the fact that getting ready for their first communion. Anyway, I say this because, oftentimes I think we're like that too. We kind of think of the senses first, right? We think of the taste and the smell and the hearing and all that. We kind of spend a lot of time focused on our senses a little bit, and and I mean, nothing wrong with that with children and stuff like that. But I think though when the senses kind of guide our lives, it can get a little bit out of hand. And this is what happened in that first reading that we heard of today. This first reading with the Israelites. Now, yesterday we missed. Because of the feast day yesterday, and so good reason to celebrate Mary Magdalene yesterday. But we would have heard the big story of the Israelites being freed, walking through the Red Sea. So on Monday there was kind of the prep about it, and then Tuesday yesterday in the lectionary would have been that story about them walking through the Red Sea dry shod. And then today, well, we have the aftermath. And what do? What's the first thing they do? This place is horrible. Why'd you bring us here, Moses? We should have just went back. There's lots of food back there. So they're really guided here by their passions. They're guided by their hunger. And Moses and so they're complaining. So Moses prays to the Lord about it, and the Lord decides, okay, well, I'm going to give you some food. I'm going to give you some quails in the evening, some meat, and then in the morning bread. This manna. Manu is what we would call that. So which means, what is this, right? And so he gives them this. Thank you. Okay. All right. I think someone is handling it. So we'll pray for that person. Okay. And so, so he gives them that this bread, and so eventually they're what they're doing is they're complaining, right? And so the Lord satisfies that complaint, but then later on, in a few chapters later in the book of Exodus, they're going to start complaining again. We're sick of this quail. We're sick of this bread. And so here we are with the passions that is guiding them. And so when we're guided by our passions, oftentimes what happens is we forget about the abundance of the Lord. This is what God does in that book of Exodus. He provides for them in abundance. All of this manna all over the ground, the dew on the ground was the manna. And if we look at the gospel today, this parable of the sower, the sower is, for all intents and purposes, not a very efficient farmer. He kind of loses 3/4 of his seeds. He's just kind of throwing them all over the place. He's throwing them on the path, he's throwing them on the rocks and in the thorns, and he's throwing them on the soil. And so he's not a very efficient farmer, if you want. But that just shows the abundance of our God, how much he gives his word, how much he spreads the seeds all over the place, the abundance of the Lord. And however, sometimes we kind of forget that. We think, well, Lord, oftentimes we think, well, Lord, okay, yeah, you did stuff back then, but what have you done for me lately? That's oftentimes our reaction a little bit. So we forget about this abundance of the Lord and how blessed we are. And our passions, our hungers, our, those senses, they often kind of, they choke up what the Lord gives us sometimes. And so today, I think let's ask for this grace to see the abundance of God. This grace, I think, of thanksgiving as we celebrate the Eucharist. This grace to see, to see the abundance of God in our lives. Like a beautiful sunset. I was walking over the bridge, Alexandra Bridge, the other day. It's kind of one of my last times downtown, and there was a beautiful sunset over the Outaouais River. And so just to be able to see the beauty, this abundance that the Lord gives us, the abundance of the abundant life he gives us through the sacraments, sacrament of reconciliation, but especially this abundant life, this bread from heaven that he gives us in the Eucharist. In the Eucharist, of course, is what St. Thomas Aquinas says in that Tantum Ergo we're going to sing at adoration, where all senses fail us.